Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the first one in my installment for the week of April the 6th. So things look like they're ramping up out there, and I'm sure that your stress levels are continuing to rise. So I'm going to offer several ideas for you in the next series of videos, and I hope that they'll be helpful. But for today, I want to talk to you about something called Battlemind. I'm borrowing from the military, and it's a phenomenon that I experienced many, many times in my life as we headed into situations where we knew that we were going to be separated and that my Navy husband was going to be heading off into harm's way. And so what I would notice is that before he would need to go, whether it was a few days before or a few weeks before, he would really disconnect from us. He could tell he was preoccupied. You could tell he was stressed. He already had his mind away. In his mind, that ship had already sailed. And he was preoccupied with everything that was going on for his command and for his ship. So this is a phenomenon that I also hear happening with all first responders before they have to go back to work. They might be on days off, they might be actually at home and trying to be part of it, but they start to find their brains turning towards what's next, where they're going, and how that's possibly going to be. And so what you may be noticing is that before you have to go back to work, you start checking out. And that can be extremely frustrating for your family that still needs you, still wants things, still is expecting you to show up for them. And that is increasingly difficult. It can result in disagreements and snappy behavior and irritability and probably fights before you go to work. That's super common. So I wanted to share with you just a little anecdote of how this looked for me and for my husband. So the deal is that he was about ready to leave for an unaccompanied tour to Guam. And it was set to be for 12 months. Well, it ended up turning into 15, but we had to get ready for that. And he was starting to pack his stuff. So our living room was covered. Every surface had a bag on it. He was sort of trying to think what to take for a year. And I had asked him for several days for a budget. Don't ask us how we got down to the last minute without one, but it was sort of typical of how he was finding it hard to attend to the things that I needed. And he didn't do it. So it's the night before, it's probably 8 o'clock. We're all completely stressed. We've got the kids in bed. And I walk out to him to ask one more time to please help, set this up for me, at least in a framework. He was sitting on the floor of our living room, and he had taken apart my hairdryer, and he was poking the dust from the hairdryer intake through with a paper clip. Yeah, that's what he was doing. And I walked by, and I basically, I said, "What are you doing?" And he looks up at me, and he's just got this sort of disconnected look on his face. He goes, "Yeah, I just thought I needed to handle this." Well, I was in the Navy a long time ago, and I've got a pretty rich vocabulary, and let me tell you, I used it, which of course picked the fight before he left, and we went to bed, and the next morning I had to drop him off at the airport, and pretty much drop kicked him out the door and said, go. And it was just one of those things. And in my whole marriage, I have never had a similar situation like that, but that's what he did. That was how he thought he was helping, and it was completely off the mark. So maybe some of you out there can substitute your own examples of how your people are connecting with you or how they're not. So that's what Battlemind is, though. That is when your head jumps ahead into the setting you're going to and is preoccupied with that while you're still at home. So what are the antidotes to this? Being aware, recognizing that you're checking out. Set up a little routine that will help you and your spouse or your partner or your family members. Just recognize that you have to gear up before you go in. And part of that might be needing some quiet time to ground yourself, to eat something healthy, to play a game with your kids. I don't know, but I hope that just identifying this phenomenon can help you sidestep some of the pitfalls of separating and going back into the place that is so fraught with concern and worry and stress. All right, so there's my little heart for you, and consider this idea and talk about it. All right, talk to you in a minute. Bye.